I remember I had a really a great coach. However, she wanted to coach people to basically be like her.
Okay.
And I remember having this 3-day conference that was amazing, and everybody they were blown away. It was fantastic. And the whole time I was hating every moment of it because I thought that's who I needed to be in order to be successful. And I remember the moment of deciding, I get to be Tish Times. Tish Times doesn't do this. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. We are back here with an amazing guest. We're going to have a great conversation. And look, you guys are going to get to meet my new friend, and she is just a spitfire, a ball of fun, and she is what we call fun size. I want to introduce you to Teresa Paganini. And Teresa, I'm going to ask you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, but please include something we're not going to find out in your bio or on your website.
Ooh. Okay. So hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Paganini, and I own Elevate. It's spelled with the word love because I believe self-love is your superpower. And if you truly unconditionally love who you are, you will enter and approach this world with the greatest level of confidence. And so that's what I profess, and that is what I do. And something about me you would not know in my bio is that I camped by myself after being laid off from a corporate career from Florida to Alaska. And I became an outdoor guide in Alaska and got to kayak with killer whales, humpback whales, seals, and otters and jellyfish. It was the most amazing experience of my life. And it was that was a self-love journey of my own.
Yeah.
After working in corporate to make this decision to walk away from it all and live with nature. And it was an amazing, epic experience. And I love that I did that.
I love that you did that as well. I just love the boldness that it takes to be able to make that kind of a step. Has that always been who you are, or is that something that shifted in your adulthood?
It's always been who I am. I am from New Jersey. I have 3 brothers. I'm the only girl in a family of New York Italians.
Okay.
And the only Jersey girl. The rest of them are New Yorkers. And so you had to grow up bold in that environment. Mm-hmm. And I felt very safe to be bold. Yeah. So I've often just trusted myself to dive in and just figure out, I'll land somehow, even if I have to do a tuck and roll.
Yeah.
I'll survive it.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I was lucky enough to feel safe to do that pretty frequently. I've gotten more bold as I've gotten older.
Oh, that's a good thing. Okay.
Yes.
I'm with it.
So it has evolved.
I love it. So now you all see spitfire, ball of energy. Now you get what I was talking about, right? So I really wanted you all to meet Teresa for a variety of reasons, but I had the pleasure of being in the room when she spoke at a conference maybe a couple months ago now. Yeah, and she lit up the room, just owned it. And I get to see a lot of speakers. I get to go to a lot of conferences, and very few are just like, wow me. And she absolutely did. And so I want to hear, what are the things that are just like bubbling up inside of you that, it's like, I've got to get this message out. What are the things that you're teaching right now? I know I've heard them. I want the audience to understand them. What are the things that really light you up and make you own the room the way that you did when I saw you?
Yeah. I have such a passion for everyone, but very specifically women, to recognize their own worth.
Yeah.
I've worked with men and women for over a decade, and women definitely struggle with lower self-worth innately, much more than men. And it's frustrating to watch women be their greatest roadblock in life.
Yeah.
They want something, and they're the reason they don't get it. And watching that frustrated me enough, and I've done it enough that I was like, wow. Why? And I want to do something about it because our job, in my opinion, on this earth is to be the most joyful, fulfilled, satisfied human out there. Because when we're that way, we have a lot to give.
Yes.
We're an example for other people. Mm-hmm. And the ripple effect that we have in the world is not just huge, but it's positive.
Yes.
And it takes confidence to have that kind of a ripple. And if we have this voice in our head constantly telling us how we're not enough and we listen to it, we don't have the ability to make the ripple that we should be making with our own passion, our own purpose, our own skill sets, our own experience. We keep ourselves small.
Yeah.
And so I have a huge passion to teach women how to stand tall in their own power. So that way they stop getting in their way and instead push themselves forward despite discomfort because they know they're both worthy and capable of being successful in whatever capacity they really desire.
I love that. So I struggled with confidence my entire childhood, up until like mid-20s. It took me a long time to really own my voice, believe who I was, really step into my power. When someone comes to you and they hear what you're saying and they're like moved by your words, but they're really struggling with who they are, how do you help them come from the place of not believing to really believing all the things that you're teaching?
Yeah. So I do, although not a therapist, I am familiar with a lot of therapeutic tendencies. And so I will use a form of interviewing to help them pull out the difference between story and fact. A lot of us live in story, which feels like truth.
Right.
And then through some investigation and questioning, we can figure out what's real versus what's either assumed or what have we gleaned from observation of others. What belief systems have we adopted that aren't even ours?
Yeah.
But we're living by somebody else's because as a child, we were taught that either through observation or actual lesson.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as an adult, we're living by that, not realizing, well, you're an adult now. You can step back and make a new decision. Yeah. And so oftentimes I start the entire process with this conversation of where did the self-doubt start? And is it yours? Is it somebody else's?
Yeah.
Is it based on truth or is it based on story? And it's almost always based on story. There is a kernel of truth that turned into a story. And if we go back to the kernel's not scary.
Yeah.
The story is extremely scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So what have been for you the pockets of where you've had to kind of relearn what you knew to be true? So for instance, even after I found my voice in my, mid-20s and really stepped into being more confident, there were still pockets of time where I shrunk back and, forgot who I was and made decisions out of fear and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
What have been the pockets of time that you had to learn from and come back stronger than before because something made you forget, something made you step out of your power? Give us some insight as to how that's been for your life.
Woo! Girl, there's so many.
I know.
So I think that's something that's really important to know is as you're developing confidence, there's confidence as the blanket, but then there's confidence in specific areas of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So you asked, have I always been able to make bold decisions? I've always been confident there.
Yeah.
But then there's other aspects of your life where maybe you're not. Or there's aspects of your life you think you're confident and then you have to fall down on your face. And then you realize, oh no, you're not.
Yeah.
Right?
Not so much.
So an area of my life that I was confident as a child, because you're a child, right? Was in my body. I was always athletic. Food was just food, movement was just movement. It's just life.
Yeah.
But I had a self-rejecting mother that battled obesity her entire life. And when I started to go through puberty and my body started to change, and when you go through puberty, you start pulling outside of yourself, right? The narcissism kind of tones down a bit and you start looking outward, you pay attention. I started to recognize the toxic behaviors and I started to observe and absorb.
Yeah.
And so, being overweight's not okay. If you're an amazing person, which my mother was, and you hate yourself or you're under the impression other people don't like you, it's because you're heavy.
Yeah.
So everything was about weight.
Yep.
So when we moved from Jersey to Florida, and in Jersey, I was the town sweetheart.
Yes.
Everybody knew my family. My mother ran the town. I was one of 4. I was just charmed.
Yes.
My brothers are old enough that when we moved, I was alone. I was single.
Wow.
We moved to a retirement community with very few kids.
Okay.
And when I did enter the school system, these kids were like, who are you?
Yes.
And I experienced rejection for the first time. So my first thought was, I must be fat.
Oh, wow.
So the eating disorders began.
Wow.
And so I went from anorexia to then binge eating, and I've been underweight, I've been overweight. You heard that story on the stage. And so all of that occurred because of this kernel of truth I learned through observation. And then as an adult realized it's not mine.
Yeah.
And so when I did have that aha moment of this isn't my truth and my life sucks because of the truth I've been living by, it's now up to me to make the different choice. And am I willing to do that?
Wow.
And that was when, and I can't lie, body dysmorphia will often get triggered for me. But now I recognize the trigger and I have tools and techniques to help work my way out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know there's almost no one, I can't think of one other person that I have a relationship with that understands that. I went through that very same thing. And looking back, it baffles me to look back at pictures of myself, like in high school. I was like, I would love to be that size again. Oh my God.
Right?
But I saw myself as so big. And same, my mom was on diets, and all the things. But I never knew how beautiful I really was.
Nope.
I never
and that's
knew.
shame.
Yeah, such a shame. And I had voices in my head. Then I had a boyfriend who became my first husband who, would say things and it would trigger. Yeah. And so many people didn't know. You know who knew? My aunt, who is a nurse. She never said it out loud, but looking back, some of the things she would ask me and some of the things she would do, I know she knew. But I had bulimia for many years. Yeah. Many years into my 20s. Yeah. And I realized now there was just a part of me that I just couldn't see the truth. I believed the story. It was both the internal story I was telling, but it was also a picture story that I was seeing. If you're someone who hates to network because you don't always know what to say, I get you. I'm an introvert too, and I've created a free gift for you. It's my Networking and Sales Handbook just for introverts, and it is at tishtimes.com. It'll be the first pop-up you'll see. Grab it. Let me know what you think about it. It's free. Go grab it right now. For you, what were the things that, when you said you have to make a different decision, what gave you the power to be able to make that decision? Because I think it's one thing for someone to come to that kind of fork in the road and realize that a choice needs to be made. It's a very different thing to make that choice and stand in that choice. Sure. What was it for you?
Oh, so many things. So I think from a blessing perspective, I come from a very solutions-oriented family because it's very male-dominated. Yeah. And my mother's very masculine. She's much more comfortable in her masculine. She's very solutions-oriented. Got it. So I'm a problem solver by nature. So even if it's something emotional, spiritual, there's a problem to be solved. Yeah. So once I fell flat on my face, I was like, okay, there's something to be solved. So once I understood the solution was simply a matter of choice, there's also something else that's just not tolerated in my family, and that's being a victim. Yeah. It's just not tolerated. So if I did not make the choice to change, I was choosing to be a victim. Wow. That's it. You're either your hero or you're a victim. Wow. Those are your only two options. Yeah. This one wasn't available. Yeah. So I was like, okay, this direction we go. And I did go to, by this point, I had already been to college for exercise and sports science and nutrition. So I had the knowledge. Knowledge wasn't the issue. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so it was very much, I live in misery because I hate everything about my life and myself, or I don't. Yeah. So what does it say about me if I continue to choose over here? Yeah, yeah. I'm not allowed to whine about it.
Very true, very true.
So let's change it.
Yeah. I have a mentor who often says, you can't complain about what you tolerate.
That's right.
Like if you're choosing it, then you got to love it.
That's right.
You got to live in it. Otherwise, make a different decision.
Make a different decision or don't complain.
Or don't complain.
I just had that conversation with my mother on the way here. Oh.
What do you believe about how our confidence, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we show up, how does it impact the way that we do business?
Oh my goodness, girl. It impacts so much. If you are leading all of your decision making by a voice that's telling you you're not enough, you're not going after the big deals, you're not allowing yourself to be seen, you're very timid when you go to speak your truth about your business, you aren't clear about what your business is about, you don't understand your own value, and so therefore nobody else sees your value either. Everything is impacted by a lack of self-confidence. Everything. Yes.
I love, first of all, did you see the TikTok? There's all the things, right? And I don't know that people, especially women, I don't know if people realize how they're really showing up when they're in their head about who they are.
Yeah.
And they're not clear about what they're offering to the public and to the world. And do you find that it's easy for you to identify that when someone is speaking, even though they believe they're confident, they believe that they're sharing and showing up as their best self? How do you identify that? And have you ever had the opportunity to help someone past that moment in the moment?
So I can say that every woman that I've seen that I'm like, they're not approaching confident, they honestly know they're not confident. I've never met one that was under the impression they were.
Wow.
All of them have been performative. They know they're not confident, they're just faking confidence. And I can recognize that because that's how I got through my entire childhood. When I didn't have confidence,
Right.
You fake it.
Yeah.
Right? I came from a family, you don't get bullied. So you act big. No matter how small you are, you act big, right? And so I changed 9 schools in 7 years. And so 7 schools in 5 years. I did a lot of schools. And I was always the new kid. And my schools were an hour to an hour and a half from my house. So I literally knew no one. And I had to go in big and performative. So I think I can recognize their performance in others. And so it's easy to then be able to, one, relate. I think one of the number one pieces of feedback I get from people that what makes me a good coach is the fact that I'm just completely not judgmental. I've either been there and done it, I've seen it, or I haven't, but I get it. And so I know what it's like to be performative. I know how important it is to come across confident, and especially if you're introverted, how difficult that is.
Oh God, yeah, for sure.
And the world is not tolerant or built for introverts anymore. And so to be an introvert is even scarier than ever. Because the tolerance is lower. The acceptance is lower. And so generally what I'll do is I'll work with someone and give them permission to be introverted. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. You don't have to. I'm a big personality. I'm a large voice. There's more than one way. And the quiet voice that has that presence often garners a lot more respect. People listen and they're powerful. But they have to be okay sitting in their power.
Right.
And that goes part of that 3-step framework of mine, where that first step is permission. Give yourself permission to be who you are. And be unapologetic about it. And that's that first step, I think, that helps me work with those women that don't present as confident as they want to. They're trying to be something they're not.
They are. And it takes a lot for someone to make a decision to just be who they are and own it.
There's vulnerability there.
There is.
Right. If you pretend to be something else and you get rejected, your excuse is you weren't being the real you.
Exactly.
What's your excuse if you are the real you and you're still rejected?
So true.
Right?
Yeah,
no, it is a scary place to be. And so the number one question that I think is the most important that I teach people is the question of so what? You put yourself out there and somebody rejects you. So what? Exactly what will happen? What's the worst that can happen? They're not your friend? Okay.
Then I am so what?
Right? I'm like, there's 5 million people in Phoenix alone. Get a new friend. They don't do business with you? There's 5 million people in Phoenix alone. Get a new client. There's the so what in our head turns to story.
It does.
The truth. So if we can use the question of so what, we can often bring ourselves back to the ripple of that scenario is small.
I remember, Teresa, being in a place where, and I'm sure you can relate probably because of clients you've worked with, maybe even yourself, but I had a really great coach. I mean, she was a great coach. She is a great coach. However, she wanted to coach people to basically be like her. On some level, intentionally or not, And I remember being on, stage and having this 3-day conference that was amazing, and everybody they were blown away. It was fantastic. And the whole time I was hating every moment of it because I thought that's who I needed to be in order to be successful. And I remember the moment of deciding, I get to be Tish Times. Tish Times doesn't do this. I love having retreats that have 12 to 15 people, and we can get deep and we can really know each other and we can have huge transformation. that doesn't have to necessarily happen in public.
Yeah, right?
You know?
Because can transformation really happen in public,
right?
especially if you're an introvert?
You know, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I've learned to own and love my introvertedness and embrace it and learn how to really live in it. When you say permission is the first step of your framework, how do you give someone permission that for their entire life has been made to believe that they had to perform all the time?
Yeah. So the first step I do is honestly work backwards.
Say more.
Yeah. So basically, what do you want? Forget who you are. Forget your present. Go to your ideal future.
Ooh, I love that.
What do you look like? Where are you? Who's with you? Tell me how much you're working. Tell me who's surrounding you. Tell me your environment. And get them into dreaming. And many people, I was never a dreamer.
Yeah.
That was very hard. That is still hard for me. I am still practicing how to dream.
Yeah.
And so, but when you can dream, all of a sudden, that's what you want.
Yes.
And now we get to work backwards. So if that's what you want, let's take a step back in this direction. Tell me what your workday looks like in your dream. Like if they're struggling with career, what does your workday look like? Are you in an office with people? Are you at a coffee shop? Are you at a house? Are you behind a computer? Are you on a stage? Are you in a workshop? Where are you? How are you dressed?
Yeah.
Are other people talking or are you talking? Is it computer work? Right? Like, what is it? And you help them build the dream and then they get to learn who they are.
Yeah.
And then as you work them to present day, you get to ask them, are you willing to give your permission to build that?
That's beautiful.
Right? And it's always a choice. My number one question in all my consultations is, are you willing to be uncomfortable and to do the work to get where you want to be?
Yeah.
Because it will take discomfort. Where you are now, you're here because you're doing what's comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I will take you into your dream space, but in order to make the dream space, there's going to be some level of discomfort and pushing you out of your comfort zone to get there. For sure. And so part of that permission is you give yourself permission to be stretched, to be challenged, to be held, to be supported, but pushed.
Yeah. You got to be pushed for sure. How do clients who need you the most tend to find you?
Usually referral or stage.
Yeah.
Right? They see me on stage, they resonate, they like my style, and they like what I have to say, and the 3-step framework makes sense to them, and so they're thinking, okay, I can, that's easy, I can follow that.
Right.
Or referral, because people just have worked with me before and they love what I do, and so and that's why I get to work with people all over the country and all over the world. It's just through referral, friends, family who live somewhere else, and then they get to find me.
Have you ever had what we would call a sales flop, even in your boldness and your confidence?
Yeah.
Tell me about one.
Currently.
Okay, let's talk. Say more.
Yes. So we were at the conference together.
Yes.
You saw me on stage.
Yes.
Had a great time.
Yes.
Really had a great rapport with the audience. Interactive. I don't know how to just talk at people. We have to do this together kind of thing.
Yes.
And the follow-up was a one-on-one session with folks. And I am a natural born coach, and I just struggled to pull myself out of that, and I fell into coaching mode. And so with each person that I met from the conference, that first of all, a lot of that momentum was lost once the conference was over. There were so many people that took me up on the offer that it extended long past, like so far out that it was like a month and I was still doing them. So people were like, what conference?
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes.
And then they'd see you like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would fall into coach mode.
Yeah.
Because I just want to help people, which is great.
But not during the sales conversation.
But it's not during the sales conversation. So that was a great learning experience for me, for sure.
Let's talk about ways to kind of grab that opportunity and put it back in. What we talked a little bit about that. I hadn't planned on talking about this today, obviously, but what are some of the ways that you're able to, that you foresee being able to reclaim some of those opportunities?
Yeah, so I do have a workshop that will rebuild that energy, rebuild that excitement, dive a little bit deeper into the framework that I did from stage. And I'm going to have that on May 27th. And I plan on reaching back out to each of those people personally. Right now, they're getting the generic emails that may or may not be going to spam. They may or may not be seeing it on social. But I plan on reaching out to each one individually just to say, look, I know there was an interest there.
Yes.
And I would love for you to have this opportunity. It's low risk, low cost, but you really get to, once again, dive deeper into something that interested you to determine if you're ready and willing to pursue this level of confidence that you've been craving, but don't currently have. And so that's my plan of action coming up, but I'm very open to hearing your thoughts on
Well, I love it. I mean, I think you're doing great. The thing that Teresa and I spoke about before is when someone is in that moment and they're like, they're loving you, it's like, do not make them wait. It's almost like, are you hungry? Okay, we're going to eat at 7. No, you know what I mean? It's like,
that's exactly what that was like. And it felt wrong at the time. I'm not going to lie. When we came up with that plan, not we, a different we. I didn't like the plan to begin with. But I was like, okay, they're my coaches. I'm going to listen. And I should have gone with my gut, but I'm proud that I didn't. I am proud that I trusted the coach. Because now I know definitively that's not my way. I don't have to wonder, should I, shouldn't I? They guided me that way. Nope. Failure always has a positive if you're willing to look for it.
It definitely does.
That is not my route, and that is okay.
That's okay. And it's a great lesson, and I believe you'll probably get a bigger response moving forward because you care enough about those people to make sure that they're not left behind. So I have no doubt about that. Who are the people that are listening right now that probably need you the most? What are some of the characteristics? If I'm in a room and I'm saying, wow, they need to meet Teresa, who are these people? Explain them to me.
So one version of my target is my clientele is somebody who is a high achiever. They are successful outwardly. Everybody looks at them and they're like, oh, that's the girl that's got her stuff together. But inwardly, she's constantly second guessing herself. She's shaking in her boots. She's uncomfortable. She's not sure. She's like, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? What are people thinking of me? What the head is like what I call popcorn. Your popcorn maker is popping popcorn so fast you can't even capture the thoughts because there's so many voices and thoughts going on in your head. So even though you're presenting calm and confident outwardly, you don't feel that inwardly. You deserve to feel that on the inside. So that is one type of client. Another type of client is the one who does come across either afraid or timid and they know it. This is the person that when they get up on stage, they're like, I'm really nervous. Like if that's your first line, that's not doing you any favors in business. So let's get you away from that. And let's teach you how to be an introvert, a powerful introvert. And still own a stage, whether you want to be on it or not. There's always going to be opportunities where you may be spotlighted. How do you handle the spotlight with grace in a way that's going to build your business versus detract from your business? So that's another type of client. And the last type of client, honestly, is somebody who's generally middle-aged and in transition, and it's rocking their confidence. So a lot of women are identified by being a mother. And then all of a sudden, the kids are gone, and they have no idea who they are, and their boat is rocked. Or that woman who has shifted careers, or they've been building a career, and the career is just stagnant, and they know they're the one getting in their own way. Or the one who's really unhappy in their marriage, or just dissatisfied. You don't need to be really unhappy, but that woman who's just like, this isn't reciprocal. I feel taken advantage of. There's no passion. There's no dating. This is a person who doesn't know how to speak to their husband and stand firm in their power as a wonderful wife. So these are women, that middle-aged spot in that transitionary period that don't know what to do and they're just stuck.
Okay. Love it. How do those people reach you?
So elevate.co. So it's ELOVEATEC.co. You can find me on all socials through that, as well as elevate.co is my website.
Wow. Such a great conversation. I will dare say that all of the things that you said, all of the things that you brought to the table, all of those things impact your sales. If you're missing confidence, if you're in your head, if you're telling yourself stories, if you're refusing to be yourself and you feel like you have to perform, all of these things are going to impact sales. And although she's not necessarily a sales coach, I bet talking to her can help you with your sales. And so I am really grateful that I get a chance to hang out with you and talk to you. Thank you so much for being here. And I want you all to put something into practice that you heard today. And I'd love to hear what's the one thing that you had to put into practice, the thing that really shifted the moment for you. I'll see you back here next week on the Sold Out Sales podcast. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I would love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.